always want to do it like,
Okay, Krystal, thanks for jumping back on with me.
of course.
Yeah, so we were talking about I am and talking about this like base level. And I love what you had just said about putting it in like street smart terms. I mean, we don't have to get incredibly esoteric. We don't have to we don't have to make this a difficult process in terms of helping, you know, people say the Matrix, we talk about zombies, like, again, it's like, we don't need to hurt one another. I think it's just like, we're all just like having to come to this realization. There's also, I have this belief system that not only do you have mirrored back like through programming or social media or whatever, what you're already looking for is just going to like be the information that you receive. But I also believe we're in an age, because it's the information age and there's technology, we can search whatever it is we want to search. And you talked about being a truth seeker, like dropping truth bombs. Like there's this idea that we can like validate any belief system that we want to validate. Like if we wanted to say, I believe X, Y, or Z, we could go find some research that's going to support that. And somebody else is going to say they have a different belief system and they're going to go find the research that supports that. So we're in this age of like, what's the truth anymore? I mean, take people, they don't even know what to eat because they don't know what diet's good for them. I mean, I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. I'm blown away like of, people's belief systems around food. When we could go again down that rabbit hole.
You have fun with me.
Yeah, like we could go into a lot of discussion, about what food is and what's right for people. But like,
yeah.
I think there's a part of like, one thing that I try to, when I think about truth, I try to say, okay, let's just take away facts. And if I literally sit in my heart space where my soul is, where my consciousness lies, that's where truth is.
Right.
Like, at least from my vantage point, I believe, okay, I'm going to get outside of the facts with you and I'm just going to sit in my space of my soul and my heart consciousness. And that will be the biggest truth guidepost that I can have, to know what truth really is.
Yeah. And I find myself doing that more and more because I was in more of the political spectrum back in 2020, but I always had this, I've been a yogi for a really long time. So I've always had the kind of spiritual part of it. And then I'm just a mixture of a lot of things. So people are like, well, I don't know, where does she fit? And she talks about this and talks about that. But the reality is like, I had to pull myself out of everything completely and literally go from the heart space and talk about these type of things. Talk about, don't you realize what's happening? They want to keep us so divided. So they only give us two choices. They give us vaccinated versus unvaccinated, masked versus unmasked, Democrat versus Republican, so that you have to make a choice. But if I go into my heart, I know that none of this is right because it's only going to keep us from what we really want to achieve, which is unity. So when you're talking about going into the heart space, that's exactly where we should all go, to the inner guidance, not see what everybody else is saying and then base your opinion on what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. We don't need to do that when you have it within yourself.
Right. So how is this landing for people, since you're out and about and you've been speaking and in engagements? Like, how is this landing? Are people really resonating with it? Are they saying, wow, this is the next step? This is like, we went through this wild period. I mean, I call this the self-healing revolution because I'm like, let's come into 2023 empowered. Like, we've gone through like the ringer, like as a world. Like, how can we come into like 2023 in a powerful way?
Exactly.
So like, like when you're out and about, how are people, are they like saying, yeah, like I don't want to be in this energy anymore?
Yes. Which is really great. Mm-hmm. It's been surprising to me. There are still people that are just like, oh yeah, sure, I'm just going to think positive. My whole world's going to change. It's like, it's not that simple. Mm-hmm. But immediately when I start talking to anybody, like I know their mindset right away. So I'm like, I always try to just give a small glimpse of what that positive self-talk could look like. That could just change the course of your day in a minute. So people are like, wow, okay, like, and more people will gravitate towards me because of that, because I'm trying to lead in a different direction than people saying, you need to be Republican or you need to be this. I don't want that conversation. That's not the conversation anymore. Because where has it led us in 3 years?
Yeah.
So I want to give people something to be empowered by, not to be defeated with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, I think, stepping into, like, we talked about the heart space, but I think it's like, one of the themes that I think like I want to be in 2023, it's like where I'm moving, like we're like, right, like we're healers and we're spiritual people, and we're out in the community and we're serving others. But like, moving away from victim consciousness, embodying that we do have the power, but also embodying, like you said, like really embodying where those wounds are, being honest with ourselves, but then like embodying the way we want to experience life, the way we want to experience reality. Like, I don't think that we can transition from those wounded parts of ourselves into a new reality until we fully purify all layers of what we've been through, like collectively, you know, all the layers of like what happened to us during COVID, like embody, like what was that experience like? What did it feel like to be locked up and to be isolated and to be away from my loved ones and not to be able to step into my business or, send my kids to school or see my neighbors or, like we have to somehow sit with what we've been through and then embody like the reality, the truth that we want to, it's not just saying it. It's really truly experiencing what would it feel like if I stepped into the power of, I, whatever it is, like that I believe in this, that this is the person that I want to be. Like, for me, I put on this summit, it wasn't an easy task. It's not something I
Right.
run my full practice, but it's like, what if I stepped into this role of just, really embodying my truth, carrying it forward and sharing this with the world. Like, I think it's more than just, like you said, it's more than just saying. It's not an easy task to go from saying it to actualizing it,
Right.
there's a
Yes.
difference between, okay, I'm just saying this because it should be what I should feel. But if I can't access the tools, if I can't access what it feels like to own this, then how can I go from I'm diminished to the next part, to the next
Exactly.
layer, the next evolution of myself?
Yep. There's someone I'm very close to that's very big in the freedom movement, and he has this ancient knowledge in him and he embodies it. He looks the part. It's like, I've seen you in so many wars before in many lifetimes, but is so driven by ego and doesn't understand that he hasn't mastered the wisdom. He knows that he has it, but it's all driven by the ego space right now. So I've been talking to him all the time. I send him things and he thinks that I'm out of my mind, but I'm like, you're not there yet, but I know that you're going to eventually resonate with this information. So there's a lot of people out there that are true warriors from many lifetimes ago, but they just are still in that ego process. They haven't had that breaking down of the system. And I think that it's so important to recognize those things. I'm like, your ego's in the driver's seat again. You better throw them out, because we make these decisions based on ego. And I want to be, the first person to break this news. And I want to be up front there and standing up and do this. And it's like, a lot of it is coming from a good place, but a lot of it is also coming from the ego place as well. So you're not necessarily always giving the right information to people when your ego is in the driver's seat driving you around. So that's important too for me to talk about, is ego versus where your level of consciousness is. Because it's just so important to unravel all of that and then see what's really underneath of that and really stand in your power instead of letting your ego stand over there and you're just sitting there watching like, yeah, my ego's a badass. You need to be the badass minus that ego centric force that we all have.
Well, I think it goes to like 80 to 90% of communication is unspoken. We all sense energy. You can walk into a room and somebody could say they're fine. I'm okay. And you're like, no, they're not. Like, they may be saying they're okay, but I know they're not. It's like, we can't put on a show because this physical shell is just a shell. Like, the energetic part of ourself, like, can see through our facade, if you will. Like, ask anybody, like, okay, give me your objective opinion on what's happening in my life. And it's going to be a truth bomb. Like you said, a truth bomb that the ego doesn't want to hear. It doesn't want to accept. I've always tried to truly humble myself when somebody gives me a piece of advice and be like, okay, my ego doesn't like hearing this, but how can I be so humble to say, okay, hopefully they're here to get a true friend is going to give you the truth bomb, like not somebody that wants to flatter you. So, Yeah, well, we're in very interesting times. So, so will you be, I know you guide retreats, like how will you be bringing this forth in 2023?
I'm starting it off in March. Well, not starting off, but my retreat is in March. So that's going to be really fun. It's a soul rebalancing retreat. So there's going to be some people talking about urine therapy, all different kind of consciousness stuff, yoga. And it's not a spiritual retreat. It's not anything like that. It's just an open-mindedness retreat, soul connection, emotion code healing. So there are a lot of different healing modalities, body transformation, manifestation, quantum leaping, things like that. It sounds very spiritual and lulu, but I want all people to just have that experience of learning something new and being open to learning.
Yeah. I mean, it's
In
like, we don't need to, yeah, it's like, could you just be open to like, if you're not into spirituality, that's okay. You know, like I have sometimes like, you know, I run an Ayurvedic practice and people are like, oh, well, you know, you're into the Vedic text, like that's not Christian. I'm like, don't come at this like appointment. Like I'm not, you know, like you could be Catholic, you could be Christian. Just if you're looking for healing, come with an open mind that I have
Exactly.
something to help you with. Like I had a guy with some major digestive issues, very Christian. And I'm like, look, I'm not telling you what your religion needs to be.
Right.
Suffering and you're in pain. And as long as you're suffering and in pain and the doctors and everybody you're seeing isn't helping you, just come with an open mind. I'm not asking you to change your religion. I'm just asking you to come with an open mind because you're going to learn something new that you didn't learn before.
Exactly.
So it's like, you're not trying to convert anybody, but we're all in this open dialogue, you know, right now of our consciousness is shifting. I mean, humanity is shifting. It's changing. Well, gosh, if I do, you know, I'll be doing another one in 2023. I'll have to bring you on to talk about urine therapy.
Oh my God, that'd be so much fun. My friend Rodney has a course called Uriversity. He has
Oh,
studied this
cool.
inside out and backwards, and he is the biggest character you'll ever meet from Boston. So you
Oh
might
my
have to
gosh, we'll have to
him
bring
on
you
for the.
both on and
Oh my God, it
we'll
would be a
bring
trip.
urine therapy to the masses.
Yes, because as crazy as people react to it, then they're really intrigued by it. Like, what did you say? You want me to drink my what?
Yeah. You
But
want me
when
to
they know
wash
the
my
facts
hair
about it,
with your
right?
and my face, my face and my hair, and it could
I
actually
called him. I sprayed on my face every night, the age, but I called him last night. I'm like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm doing a urine enema. I was like, all right, I'll call you back. And he was like, no, I can stay on the phone. I'm like, you're literally pumping urine up your anus. So I'm going to call you back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm sorry for the
Same
tech
here.
issues, but we will share both recordings. If we can't fuse them and we'll try to fuse them, but if we can't, they'll be together.
Sounds good. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much
It
for
was
having me.
it was fun. It was great joining the space with you today.
Thank you. Same here.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too.